So this is my project video of the Nesh project which I created. So as you can see that Django development server is already running on port 127.0.0.1 colon 8000. 8000 is my port number, and I typed in this command python manage.py run server to start my development server. So let's hit this URL and check the index page. So I'm typing in the URL 27. Yeah, it's already there in suggestions, so I'm hitting that URL. This is the index page of my project. It provides you a search bar to enter the company symbol and find the relevant information from database and Elasticsearch. So now I'm entering the company name, which is EOG. And I'm hitting the search button now. So this is the result page. So these are the details of EOG that were fetched from the database. You can see market capital, net cash flow, 1 year target. And if I want to see the related news regarding EOG, I would just click on this news tab, and it will give me all the related news of EOG which were crawled from Nasdaq website and stored in Elasticsearch. You can see this is all the relevant news. I'll click on one of the news to get the detailed view of it. Now this page has rendered the detailed view of the news. You can see that we have the news is from which channel, what is the date of the news, and what is the title of news, and this is the whole body of news. Okay, if we want to find the related transcripts, we can just click on transcript, and you can see that these are all the transcripts related to EOG which were crawled. So I'm clicking on one of the transcript, and you can see this is the whole transcript. Okay, now let's look at some other company. Okay, so this time I'm entering APC, and when I'm clicking on the search button, you can see all the related information regarding APC. Now I'm hitting news button. Yeah, these are the all news regarding APC. This is just the detailed view of APC, detailed view of the news of the APC which I just clicked. Okay, now let's take a look at the transcript. So I'm clicking on this transcript. It will load its detailed view of that transcript. Okay, so this was the front end. This is the database which I created for storing information. These are all the default tables which are created by Django. This is the table which I created to store the information. As you can see that it has following fields: company name, market capital, net cash flow, and relevant information. This is the data which is stored in Elasticsearch, so I'm using Kibana to display that data on the screen. So let's first select the index. So for this project I created two new indexes named news and transcripts. So let's first take a look at transcripts. Okay, so these are all the information. Let's do it. So right now it's showing you the information of a company named OXY. Let's filter this. Now let's take a look at EOG or transcripts which are related to company called EOG. Let's take a look at the news regarding EOG. For that, I'll just switch the index. All the news are stored under the index called news. All the news are stored under the index called news. So it has rendered all the news regarding EOG. So this is the detailed view of the news. It has following field: article header, article text, by date. So this is my backend storage. Now let's take a look at the code. So this repository has three main modules. This is database. It contains the code for storing and fetching data from all the backend storage techniques. The web crawler, this module contains the code for crawling internet, and it takes the help of database module to store data in MySQL and Elasticsearch. And this Nesh, this module is named Nesh, and it is a Django web portal. It is a Django web portal. Okay, so let's first take a look at code inside database module. So it has two files, elastic.py and insert.py. So elastic.py, it has all the functions to store and fetch data from the Elasticsearch. So this is the constructor. So this is the class which I created called Elasticsearch. This is the default constructor of that class. You can see that these are my credentials for accessing Elasticsearch. So this is the first method called ingest. This method inserts data into index called transcripts. It has two parameters, company symbol and what are the transcripts that you want to insert regarding that company. This is the second method which I created called ingest news. It has 4 parameters. So it ingests data under the index called news. It has doc type of news, and it has following fields: article header, date, by, article text. I've created this method to search news. Like it has two parameters called symbol and the index of that news. So based on the symbol, it will search under the index name news based on the symbol. So it will look at the article header field and match the symbol with that field, and it will fetch you all the relevant news. And this method does the same task, but it finds everything under the index called transcripts, and it will return you all the relevant transcripts. So after getting a list of news and transcripts, if you want to take a detailed view at that news or transcripts, so I've created following method, this method called detail news. For that, it takes the ID of news and the index, and it will return you the detailed view of that news. So upon clicking on particular hyperlink of news, so every link has a particular ID. So in Elasticsearch, it will look for this ID and it will return you the detailed view of that. The same thing I've done with the transcripts. Every transcript will have a ID. Every transcript link will have a ID, and I've just returned the detailed view of that over here. So this was elastic.py. Now let's take a look at insert.py. So I've created a class called populate to fetch and store data into my SQL database. this is the first method which I've created to store any data into database. So it has following arguments: future value, market capital, net cash flow, last year revenue, the company symbol. So it will first check whether a company is already stored in database or not. If it has already stored the company, then we will just update the relevant values. Otherwise we'll insert a new row in company. So whenever crawler finds a new company, then it will insert that into database. Else if the company already exists, then we will just update the relevant values. So this is for fetching data from the database and displaying it on the Django web portal. So whenever users enter the company symbol on the index page, it will execute this query and it will fetch you all the relevant results in form of dictionary, and Django will show this result using Jinja templating on the front end. So this was database module. Let's take a look at the web crawler module. So it has two main files called main.py and scrapper.py. So this main.py, this is the wrapper file. It imports the scrapper object, scrap class from the scrapper.py file, and it so it has this file called company list, and in which you write all the symbols for which you want to scrap the data from Nasdaq. So this main.py file will open that file, company list.txt, and it will iterate through each symbol, and it will call following methods to scrap relevant information. So I'm opening so for scrapping the basic values like market capital, net cash flow, I've used Selenium for that because it required XPath, and for the fetching rest of the details like news and transcripts, I've used Beautiful Soup. So first time it will first parse this information, it will execute this method and use Selenium to find the values like market capital, net cash flow, and store them into MySQL database. Then it will execute this method, and it will parse all the transcripts of that symbol and store into Elasticsearch. The same thing happens while parsing the news. So now let's take a look at scrap.py. So these are the libraries which I imported. So this is my main scrap class. This is the default instructor. This is the base URL which I want to crawl. This is the path to my Chrome driver. These are all the configuration options which I provided to my Chrome driver. So as you can see that we are importing these two classes, Elastic search from Elastic and populate from insert, and we are initializing their object over here. So the very first method I've created to close WebDriver safely after parsing that information. So this is the parse method which will find all the information regarding net cash flow, market value, and like that. So this is the URL which you want to hit for that, and these are all the XPath to that field, and I'm fetching value from that. So this is what will be the 1 year target of that stock. This is the market path to market capital. This is the path to net cash flow. this is the part 2 last year revenue. So after fetching all those values, I am calling this database.insert database method to store all these values inside database. After that, I'm closing the browser. So this method called parse transcript, this method will call send a request to this URL, and it will find table ID of this table ID, and then it will find all the hyperlinks inside that table ID. It will iterate through each of them, finding their href attribute, and if it encounters a JavaScript pagination, then it will just continue, because Beautiful Soup cannot execute JavaScript, so it will just continue. Else it will call this fetch detail method. So this fetch detail will hit that URL, and it will find all the it will hit that URL, and it will just parse the detail view of that article and store into Elasticsearch under the index called transcripts and document called transcript. So that was method parse transcript. This is the second another method I've created called parse news. So it will hit this URL, it will find all the hyperlinks of news, href attributes of news. It will iterate through them, and it will fetch the detailed view of that news, and once it fetches the detailed view of that news and extracts all the information, it will store that information into Elasticsearch. So this is the basic structure of my web crawler. Let's take a look at Nesh Django web application. So this is the main folder of that, and I've created an app called Nasdaq inside this Django project. It has following files. You can see that this is urls.py, which acts as a controller. So it has following URL paths, and it will execute. So upon receiving this URL, it will execute following method. It will take following actions, which are defined in this views.py file. So first method which I created is index method. So upon receiving the very first request, this is the main urls.py. Upon receiving this URL 127.0.0.1:8000/Nasdaq, the control will come over here. Upon receiving this path, it will call this app URL called nasdaq.urls, and it will redirect to that path, which simply means that it will redirect over here, this url.py, and in that if there is nothing further, then it will execute this method called views.index. So let's take, so if it's simple GET request, then we will just render the basic HTML page. If it's a post request, then we will see what a user has queried, and we will check whether if it's an empty string, then we will display the relevant message. Else we will get that data, we'll search the so query method, it will it is the object of populate, therefore it will search the relevant information in database, and upon receiving that information, it will display it on the screen. So if we have encountered some new symbol which is not there in database, so it will just telling you that sorry, please, information not found, and it will display some message like that. Else, if you have found the information from database, then it will just display that data. After rendering the data relevant information on the nav bar, you have two options called news and transcripts. So upon clicking on news, so it will take symbol as the input parameter, and it will fetch all the relevant information or news from Elasticsearch, and it will display that on the screen. And the same thing goes for the transcript. Upon clicking on transcript your hyperlink, it will fetch all the relevant information from Elasticsearch, and it will display it on the screen. After so this detail news method, after receiving a list of news, whenever a user clicks on particular hyperlink of news, this method will be called to fetch the detailed information of that news from Elasticsearch, and this method then will redirect to this web page and display the detailed view of news. Similarly, the detailed transcript method, it will fetch the detailed view of transcript, and it will redirect to this web page. So yeah, so this is the folder called templates. It has all the HTML web page which I created for this project. So starting from index.html web page, this web page contains the code for the home screen which you guys saw. So this is the home screen. So this is index.html page. When you search something, so this is results.html page. So this is the code for that. When you click on the news button, it will render this web page which is called news.html. It's over here. When you click on transcripts, it will render this web page which is over here, transcripts.html. When you click on any particular transcripts, it will render the detailed view of the transcripts. So that is this web page called detailed transcripts.html. And when you click on the news, when you click on the news, and when you click the detailed view of that news, so it fetches this web page called detailnews.html. So under the static folder, I have all the CSS class which I've used for this project. So under assets, you can find all the CSS class. Main.css has all the CSS tags and properties which I've used in this project. So yeah, I guess this was it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to working with you.